Hi, this is our second video for now we're going to sew together our strips. First of all, I want to give you a little bit of fundamental information on the sewing machine. This will help things sew a lot easier. First thing we need to know about is our foot pedal. This foot pedal is what, when we press with our foot, it makes the machine sew. So we will coordinate our foot with our hands to drive the fabric. So the next thing that you need to know is the presser foot. The presser foot is that little foot that holds the fabric down. That foot comes up and down. When it's up, it allows the fabric to move. When it's down, it is pressing the fabric, that's probably where the name came from, against these little things called the feed dogs. These feed dogs have little like teeth on them. When you put the fabric in there and the presser foot down, it will grab the fabric and move the fabric through your machine. That way you don't pull, you just let the machine actually pull the fabric through. Let me give you a little demonstration. So my goal when I'm sewing is to keep my fabric edge against this fabric guide. This fabric guide has been set up for you. It will be set up for you when you get to your machines. What it is a 1/4 inch. So I've taken my needle, I've put it in the position of a 1/4 inch, and then I've stuck my fabric guide right there on the machine so that I know that if I continue to guide my fabric along this edge, I will get my 1/4 inch seams. So that's what you're going to see when you get into the sewing room, is you're going to see the fabric set up like that, so you know that the machine is ready to go. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our middle rail fabric and our thin rail fabric, and we're going to start to sew them together. There's a right side and a wrong side to these fabrics. As you can see, the difference in this yellow one. This blue one is not as easy to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the right sides together. Right sides together, really important. And we're going to line them up with the edges we want to sew nice and evenly. From here, we're going to put this into the machine, right sides together. Otherwise, you're going to be tearing out seams, and that's not fun. I'm going to line it up on my seam guide, and I'm going to press on the presser foot. No, excuse me, on the foot pedal. This is the presser foot. This is the foot pedal. And when I press on the foot pedal, it will pull my fabric all by itself. My thing is I'm keeping an eye on this fabric, that it's on the guideline, and that these fabrics aren't separating, that their edges are nice and even, because otherwise it won't sew both fabrics. So again, it's the most important thing is that my fabrics are lined up edge to edge, and those two edges together are lined up on the edge of this seam guide. And the machine will just gently pull these together. What will happen if I hold this fabric and resist the machine from pulling it, it will pull the needle. When the needle gets into the fabric and I'm pulling on it, the needle will come forward and it will hit the metal plate and it'll break the needle. It also messes up with the thread on the lower part of the machine, which is called the bobbin. It'll start making that all knotted up, and then that knots up, and we have to take everything apart and fix it. So the important things are right sides together, edges lined up with the seam guide, and just gently hold it and work with the machine on letting it, just kind of like feeding that machine. And you'll see when we're done with the right sides together, we will open it up and you will have your seam. So that is one side of the strip. When you're done, press your foot up, scissors, and that's that. You can do all of the same, you can do this to all 9 of your strips, and then we'll go around and we'll sew the next strip on this side. So then open it up, and there it is. For the next step, here's that first strip I just sewed on. I'm going to sew on the second strip. Here's my 2 strips, right sides together. Line up those edges in the machine. Like I said, the machine, my goal is to keep an eye on the 2 edges, that they're even, and that those 2 edges even are following that seam guide. You can see over here that the seam is pretty consistent because of that seam guide. Some people may suggest using the edge of the foot. That's fine, but different presser feet have different sizes, so if you're going from machine to machine, you're not getting the same seam allowance. So that's why we've done this, so that all the machines have the same seam allowance, or close to the same seam allowance. Even just sewing like this, we will get some inconsistencies, but nothing we can't work with. Mine is a little bit short. You will find that the different fabrics are different lengths, but this was a uniform skirt, so mine is extremely short. So what you do then, now you have these, you're going to go to the ironing board, and you're going to open these up and iron them open. The back side will look like this. The seams will both flare out, so the middle fabric will be flat, and then the outside little the smaller strips will be the ones that fold back. Hopefully that'll help, and I'll come back and show you how to cut squares next. Okay, we're going to go back to the ironing board, so to speak. We are going to, I'm going to show you how the steps to iron, because it just makes it a nice clean seam if you do it the right way. So when you've left your machine, you have your strips both sewn on each side of this wide border. Again, right sides are together when you've sewn it. So when you get to the ironing board, your strips are going to look like this. What you want to do real quick is just iron flat these seams before you iron them open. After you've ironed them flat, it just flattens out that nice seam that you've just sewn. Then we're going to just flip these open and iron these outward flat. What that does to the back of this is it makes these seams go out so that that one middle piece is flat and wide. So that's what the back should look like. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to cut our squares. I'm going to line this up. We're going to use the edges of our strips the same way we used our folded edges. So we're going to line these up. Again, they should be parallel. And there will be some, fabric has a way to give, so it won't be exact, and especially with sometimes these seams don't go the same, they aren't as flat in areas as they are in others. So we are going to line it up, and it hopefully should be parallel. If not, you could probably figure out if you went back and ironed it, you'd get it a little more even. We're going to then take this and we're going to square it off, just like we did last time. We're going to find, like this is the factory edge, so it's got a bunch of little holes in it. So I don't want that part of my square, so I'm going to kind of put that over the line that I'm going to square it off from. So this is the spot I'm going to square it off from. So again, back to the rotary cutter, very careful, rolling razor blade, open and close it, keep it closed when we're not using it. Our gridded ruler, our gridded mat. Our mat is our base. On our base, we're placing our fabric, lined up nice and evenly with those grids. And I'm going to now line up my ruler with those grids as well. And I'm going to square it off, again, not using the bottom edge, but the point. And a lot of times too, when you get out here, you want to, when you start this way and you straighten your arm out, you want to go flat. You want to make sure that that hand stays consistent. So I'm going to square off that edge. Hopefully you can see. And that pulls off those little, not very pretty edges, and it gives us a nice good one. From here, we're going to go over, our blocks are 9.5 inches, so we're going to go over 9.5 inches. Let's see, 5.5 to 15 would be 9.5 inches. Good old math. Let's go over here. Hopefully you can still see. So there's my 9.5 inches. And I'm going to strip that up. And there's my square. That simple. So I go through and I keep doing my 9.5 inches on all my strips, and I should end up with plenty of squares. From there, I'll show you how to do, on our next little segment, how to sew the squares together.